Hey friends! Please excuse the number of tabs and amount of mess on my desktop. I am showing my whole desktop so that you can see exactly what I'm doing as I walk through this initial setup for your EOS augmented layout, screen layout, basic setup for the software the first time you use it. After you've set this up once, you should be good to go and not have to repeat this process unless you're setting it up on another computer. So you will first go to the console software page, download and install whichever version of the EOS family or etc Nomad software is correct to match your computer. So that is step one. You will also download this Stagecraft Light Lab. This is the sample project. And you'll download it. When you click on it, it'll download it. It'll drop it into your downloads, whether you're on a Mac or a PC, that's where it will end up. And then I just dragged it to my desktop to make it a little easier to find. If you have a specific folder for your Stagecraft class stuff, you could put it there as well. But you cannot, it will not work. To double click on this will not open the software. It's not that kind of a file. This is all originally meant to work only on a light board, which only runs this one specific software. So it's not like as default to a computer in the same way. But anyways, you'll then open the EOS family software. So let me go find mine in my Launchpad, EOS family welcome screen. And that will open what's called the shell. And so the shell is the like outside of the programming module part of the software. There are certain tether tool, like the augmented tether, mirror, offline, and settings, which are only available through the shell. Those are more important if you're setting up something like multiple monitors, which could be really useful, although we're not going to do that in this case because I don't assume you have multiple monitors. But those settings are found in this outside in the shell setting tab. We're going to click the first button here, which is offline with Viz. So we are in an offline version. That means we're not driving an actual lighting system. There's no DMX line coming out of our computer. With Viz, so with the visualizer, which is augmented. So I say okay, and it says blah, 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 blah. These things are all required in order for this to actually do things. La, 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 la. Okay, great. So I click that button, and it opens up, and yours should most likely look something like this. The little tabs down here might be slightly different. I'm not sure. I've tried to reset it back to the way that it'll look when you first open it. So here are the things that you want to do in order to make it look like that screen that I have, okay? So the first thing you'll do is open that file. And you'll do that by hitting this little caret, going into this browser, going to open, and then, remember I put it on the desktop to make it a little easier to find. And now I see I have Stagecraft Light Lab, and I'm just going to say, okay, open all of it. All of the stuff that's in that Light Lab, open it, okay? So you will notice there's a queue too. So I do have a couple of sample queues in this file. We'll learn how to delete those in a minute when we get to the actual programming step. But you don't see the pretty picture, right? It's just a bunch of little numbers in little blocks, which are called tombstones. And there's a bunch of extra ones that are gray that aren't doing anything. And as you scroll down, there's like even more to infinity little gray blocks forever. Okay. So one of the things I'm going to have you do is change the setting on your display here so that it shows only the channels that are patched, right? So that's only showing channels or tombstones of numbers that have actual lights attached to them. So we're going to open the virtual keyboard up here, and then we're going to hit this button that says Flexi, and we hit it one time, and now it's just highlighting those channels that have something in them, okay? So that's step one. The next thing we're going to do is we want to see that side by side, right? We want to see the model over on the side with the visualizer in it. So if you click up here where it says 1 and it looks like the monitor, that's going to tell you, oh, how is my monitor set up, right? And there are a lot of different options that you have. We're going to choose this 2-column side-by-side mode. for now. Okay, so now I have a whole bunch of all of these original tabs are sort of living in this left-hand side. And then I have an empty plate over here that I can hit the little plus button and open Augmented tab 38. And it'll take a second to initialize it. So we'll wait for that. So that is the base model with no lights turned on. It does have the work lights turned on, and that was where I just went over here. To move around in the model, you can zoom in and out using your middle mouse button. So if you zoom out a little bit, now you can see the whole stage, right? And all of the lighting fixtures. You can rotate around, you can orbit around with your right-hand button on your mouse. And as you turn, because of the way that the software is set up, it will disappear whatever walls you're looking through, okay? So that you can still see the stage, even if you're looking at it from the side or the other side, okay? Or you can look kind of down into it. There are also some quick views. So if you go to this camera button, there are home and bookmarks available to you that will just jump to those various places, those various camera views. So if that's something that you need. But I usually just kind of zoom out to about here. Now, the next thing is, right, we do have settings around how the light shows up. And let me just change this back to the default, right? So you can have all of these various things turned on. You can have haze turned on or not. Beam intensity is how much we see the light moving through the air. And then ambient light is like the amount of work light on the stage, right? So when you first set it up, when you turn those lights on, right, they're not super, super bright. This is especially apparent when you have like colors. So if I were to take 33 through 36 and turn them on at full and then change them a color using my moving lights tab, because all of this other ambient light is on, it's not as dramatic as it would actually look in a show setting, right? And so to make it look more like it would look literally in the show, you go back into this little light tab, right? And you can turn it down to either low ambient light or you can turn off the ambient light. And now it'll look the way that it would look if you were watching the play, right? And so this is a much more accurate representation visually, but you can't see the rig, right? You can't see all of the other stuff going on. You can just see the scene. So that's how you sort of set up the look of this panel. Now, you do have other options in this options tab, and one of those is quality. So if your computer is slow, you're having trouble rendering things, you can change some of these quality settings, right? You can make the refresh rate, right? So choose a lower frames per second refresh rate if you're experiencing performance problems. I think mine defaulted to like 60 frames per second, but I switched it to 30 right away. You can choose an even lower rate if you want. And then there are also, so that's just a quality, right? How much rendering information is happening? How much is it pushing your processor to get that image right? Okay. Medium is pretty good for me. And then there are approximated, pass-through, or realistic lighting setup options, right? So approximated is the default, I think, and that is the least resource intensive. So it will not cast shadows. It will look just like an approximation of that light. Pass-through will continue through an object, right? The light will just keep going. And then if you want realistic, it'll take some more processor power, but now you see it's rendering shadows as well. So if you have a lot of oomph to your computer, you can render shadows if you want to. That is available. I'm going to turn that off again just for efficiency's sake, okay? There's one other setting I'd like you to adjust, and it's a little bit buried, but it is that tracking versus queue-only mode situation over here. And so the way to get to that is in this file menu. You'll go to Setup, and it's in one of these. I think it's in User Settings, but I could be wrong because they've moved the menus around. Let's see. Yep, in User Settings, tracking mode, and then we're gonna just click that one time, and that switches it back to queue only mode, okay? So that right there is good enough. All right. And then once you've done that, you can go back into the live table patched and minimize back down this bottom window. So now you're able to see your channels on the left and your stage space on the right. So that is very basic, minimal setup of step one, and then I will do a separate video that's about details around programming, and I can also do a quick video around how the edit tools work if you want to change the setup of the people on the stage. And then if I get real ambitious, or you do, we can talk about actually adding lights, which is a separate whole adventure that I'm not making part of your life. So once you've finished your work for the day, you just want to go back into that file and hit that save button, save it. It'll not have an asterisk once it's been saved, so then you know you have that copy that is the most updated version saved so that you don't lose your work. So that is the basic setup for the EOS family or Nomad lighting console for today. And we'll get into it a little bit more in just a minute. Thanks, friends. Bye.